I use Selenium, basically when I get tired of checking my site myself, and I try to tell everybody about it. I'm not sure why more people don't use it. I mean, I don't know what else there really is out there. I've looked at some of the options, but Selenium just seems like the easiest and the best to use.
At my company, mylife.com, we use Selenium to operate as a driver for the web browser. We're using Selenium Grid, so we've got a large deployed system of Selenium RCs that operate through a grid hub. I was really hoping Philippe Henriga was going to be here today so we could hear about that. We use it primarily as a driver. We first heard about it when we were interviewing an automation engineer. They mentioned they use Selenium, so naturally I looked it up. Used Selenium IDE a little bit, found out just as Dante told us here that it's not too effective over time as you develop more complex tests that have state, tests that interact with maybe things other than page components like the database. You're going to need to start developing a more complex framework, and a programming language is pretty much ideal for that, so Selenium RC was the answer.
So for our project, we have a widget that you install onto your website. Right, and the problem we have right now is we have good unit tests, we have good functional tests to test out all the back-end work, but we don't really. Right. The problem is the entire widget is in JavaScript, and that JavaScript becomes very brutal for us when we make.
There's JavaScript that generates interface elements. There's JavaScript that changes the elements on the page and interacts with the DOM. It's very heavy, a lot of interactions going on, so yeah, and it's very brittle, so when we change things, we basically have to click through them and make sure that the widget still works, which is a big pain in the butt compared to running rake tests for Ruby.
So part of the plan is we would want to have Selenium be kind of the unit tests for that widget, right? I guess a combination of both the unit tests and the functional tests, instead of, just the equivalent of what we have in our Rails backend.
We're currently looking at Selenium for testing our large suite of websites. We haven't done very much with it yet. We're still in the early stages of really wanting continuous integration rather than having it. When we found Selenium, it was one of those things where it just made testing so easy and just addictive. It was one of those addictive, getting the feedback of hitting the things and seeing the little green lines come up, and then seeing the red lines come up and whacking them, and it's terribly satisfying. And so the ease of use and the ability to also hand over the IDE to people who aren't programmers, like program managers whose job it is to click through the site constantly anyway, just tell them, look, have the record button clicked and produce some tests for us. It's great.
I use Selenium RC, but I pre-record using Selenium IDE, the steps, so I can record XPath. And I do use this frame, almost the same vision of the frame. I use navigation page. I created main object from which page objects from which I derived other pages in my test frame. And I reuse many methods which are in page class.
The success story, the only one we've really had so far, was that in trying to introduce Selenium to the company, we had a set of internal tools that we had to do a manual functional smoke test for every time we wanted to do a release, and we had this listed on a wiki page, and it would take us 15 minutes to go through and click everything. And then one night I downloaded Selenium and I said, sod this. I just recorded the whole lot. It took about roughly the same time to record everything as it did to do the smoke test anyway, and then playing it back took 20 seconds. And then every time I wanted to do a smoke test for release, it just took 20 seconds instead of 20 minutes, and you don't really need to make much more of an argument than that.
I finally got it hooked up with a PHP unit running Selenium RC and cruise control with PHP under control, so it's all like a continuous integration package, which is beautiful because you can do front end tests and back end tests at the same time, and it's really awesome. It's like Jedi mind trick shit. It's great.
Our best success story, I think, happens anytime we refactor things and get the test to pass.
Yeah, I love when it catches bugs. Before we do test cases every night, in the morning you analyze the test result, and you find a bug, you file it, and I love to add tag to this bug auto.